Baby, I invested our 401k, all of it, with my buddy Derek. It's a sure thing. Those 7 words, that's all it took. 7 words to destroy 15 years of marriage, 2 decades of savings, and every plan we made. I'm Sarah. I'm 42. I live in suburban Ohio with my husband Mark, our 2 kids. We're not rich. We're not fancy. We're the family you see at Costco on Saturday mornings, buying bulk chicken and wondering if we can afford good paper towels. We had 200,000 in our 401k. Our safety net, college fund, retirement. And Mark gave it all away. To his college roommate I met once. A guy who smelled like cheap cologne and desperation. Mark didn't ask me. He didn't mention it. He just did it. Because it was a guaranteed opportunity. A once-in-a-lifetime deal. Now the company has collapsed. The money is gone. And when I cried, when I screamed, when I asked him how he could do this to our family, do you know what he said? He said, "Sarah, you're overreacting. You're too worried. You don't understand business. So I need you to tell me something honestly. If this was your life, your savings, your children's future, and your partner threw it away without even a conversation, am I in the wrong for filing for divorce? Let me know in the comments. Hit subscribe, because what's coming next will make your blood boil. Trust me." Mark and I met in college. He was pre-law, I was nursing. We were that couple everyone said would make it. We did make it through job losses, through my mother's cancer, through 2 difficult pregnancies. We held hands in hospital rooms and promised each other we'd always be a team. We were a team. Or at least I thought we were. We weren't perfect. Mark had this thing where he needed to be the provider, the decision maker, the guy who handled things. I didn't mind at first. I found it kind of sweet. He'd take care of the bills, the taxes, the investments. I trusted him completely, blindly even. Looking back, that trust feels like the stupidest thing I've ever done. About 6 months ago, Mark started changing. He'd come home later, smelling like bourbon and excuses. He'd take phone calls in the garage. He'd close his laptop when I walked into the room. I asked him what was going on and he'd laugh it off. "Work stress, babe. Nothing for you to worry about." And I believed him, because that's what you do when you love someone. You believe them. Then came the dinner. Derek showed up at our house unannounced. I'd forgotten about Derek, Mark's college roommate who sold used cars in Florida and always had a business venture. He was wearing a suit that cost more than our monthly mortgage. He talked about crypto, about blockchain, about a startup that was going to revolutionize logistics. I remember thinking he sounded like every guy on a late-night infomercial. But Mark? Mark was mesmerized. He hung on every word. After Derek left, I told Mark I didn't like him. I said the guy gave me bad vibes. Mark waved me off. "You're being paranoid, Sarah. Derek's a good guy. He's offering me a chance to get in early. I should have pushed harder. I should have screamed. But I didn't. I let it go. And that decision cost me everything." It was a Tuesday. I'll never forget it because Tuesdays are spaghetti night, and I was standing at the stove stirring marinara when Mark walked in. He didn't kiss me hello. He didn't pet the dog. He just stood there in the doorway with this weird expression, half excited, half terrified. "Baby, I invested our 401k, all of it, with my buddy Derek. It's a sure thing." The wooden spoon fell out of my hand. Sauce splattered on the tile. I turned around slowly, hoping this was some kind of sick joke. "What do you mean, all of it?" My voice didn't even sound like my own. 200,000. "I moved it last week. Derek's company is going public in 3 months. We're looking at doubling our money, maybe tripling it. Sarah, this is our ticket out. No more grinding. No more Costco on Saturdays." I couldn't breathe. Literally could not breathe. My chest felt like someone was standing on it. "Mark," I whispered. "We had an agreement. We agreed no major financial decisions without talking. We agreed." "We didn't agree to stay poor forever," he snapped. His face turned red. "You never support my ideas. You shoot everything down. You're so negative, so worried about everything. I knew if I told you, you'd say no. So I made the decision. I'm the man of this house, and I made the call." I started shaking. Not crying yet, just shaking. "You stole from me. You stole from our children. That money. I didn't steal anything, he yelled. I'm trying to save us. You're just too blind to see it. That night, I slept in the guest room. I lay there staring at the ceiling, wondering how the person I loved most in the world could look at me and see an obstacle instead of a partner. I kept thinking about our daughter's braces, our son's college applications, the roof we needed to replace, all of it gone because Mark wanted to be a big shot. 3 weeks later, Derek stopped answering his phone. The website went dark. The office address turned out to be a mailbox in a strip mall between a vape shop and a payday loan place. I found this out because I drove there. I drove 2 hours to see it for myself. I sat in my Honda in that parking lot and I cried so hard I thought I was going to throw up. When I got home, Mark was on the couch watching football. He didn't look up when I walked in. It's over, isn't it? I said. My voice was flat, empty. He muted the TV. These things happen, Sarah. It's a setback. We'll recover. A setback? I laughed, but it came out like a sob. Mark, we lost $200,000. We lost our retirement. We lost our children's education. And you call it a setback? He stood up then, and I'll never forget what he said next. He looked at me with this disgust, this actual disgust, and said, if you weren't so negative all the time, maybe I wouldn't have had to hide it from you. This is your fault too, Sarah. Your constant worrying, your lack of faith in me. You drove me to this. My fault. He made it my fault. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. 15 years of marriage, and this man stood in our living room and told me that his decision to gamble away our life savings was somehow my fault because I was too worried. The audacity. The absolute, breathtaking audacity. That night, something in me broke. But something else woke up. I stopped crying. I started thinking, and I started digging. I'm a nurse, not a detective. But when your entire future has been stolen, you learn fast. I started with our bank statements. Mark had been careful he'd transferred the money in chunks over 2 weeks to avoid triggering alerts. But I found the paperwork. I found the wire transfer receipts hidden in his toolbox in the garage. Who hides financial documents in a toolbox? A man who thinks his wife is too dumb to look there, apparently. Then I started calling people. I called Derek's ex-wife. I called old mutual friends. I spent nights on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on every database I could access. And piece by piece, a picture started to form. A picture that made me sick. Derek didn't have a logistics company. He never did. What he had was a string of failed businesses, a gambling addiction, and 3 outstanding lawsuits for fraud in 2 different states. Mark knew. He had to know. They'd been talking for months. I found emails Mark had deleted them from his inbox, but not from the trash folder. I'm not proud of snooping, but I'm not sorry either. In those emails, I found the worst thing. The thing that still makes me want to vomit when I think about it. Mark hadn't just invested our money. He'd signed on as a consultant for Derek's fake company. He was getting a 10% referral fee for every dollar he brought in. Our dollars. He was going to make $20,000 off our own retirement fund, and he never told me. He was going to profit from our loss. But that wasn't even the biggest shock. The biggest shock came when I found the text messages. Mark had been texting someone named Jay for months. Sweet texts. Intimate texts. I can't wait to be with you. She suspects nothing. Once the deal goes through, I'll have enough to leave. Jay was Jennifer, Derek's sister. My husband was having an affair with Derek's sister, and the money, or at least part of it, was supposed to fund their new life together. The investment was a cover story. The business opportunity was a lie, he told me, so he could drain our accounts and run away with his mistress. I kept reading until my vision blurred. 15 years, 2 kids, our life, and he would burn it down for a woman in on the con. I felt like a complete fool. I sat on our bedroom floor at 3 a.m., reading those texts over and over, and I didn't cry. I went completely numb. My hands were shaking, but my eyes were dry. I felt like my soul had left my body and was watching this happen to someone else. And then I got angry. Not the screaming, plate-throwing kind of angry. The cold, calculating, I'm going to destroy you kind of angry. The next morning I called Derek's ex-wife Carla in Tampa. When I told her who I was, she didn't hesitate. You're the wife of the idiot who gave Derek money? She told me Derek had taken her house, her car, and her dignity through an identical scam 5 years ago. Then she said something that froze my blood. She said Mark had called her 6 months ago asking about Derek. Mark Knew. He knew exactly what Derek was, and he partnered with him anyway. My husband wasn't a victim. He was a volunteer. Then Carla told me the final piece. Jennifer was in on it too. She's done this with 3 other men. I nearly dropped the phone. It wasn't just an affair. It was a scheme. Jennifer targeted married men with savings, seduced them, and helped Derek drain their accounts. Mark thought he was the player. He was the mark. And he was so arrogant, so desperate to feel like a big shot, that he walked right into their trap with our money. The hardest part wasn't finding out about the money. It was looking at my daughter that same morning. She came into the kitchen rubbing her eyes, wearing her unicorn pajamas, and asked me why I looked so tired. I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to say, Daddy stole your future, baby. He stole it so he could run away with another woman, but I didn't. I smiled and poured her cereal and told her Mommy just had a long night at work. She believed me. She shouldn't have had to believe me. She shouldn't have had to carry any of this. But I knew that if I was going to save us, I had to be smarter than him. I had to be patient. I had to be steel. I didn't confront him, not immediately. That would have been too easy, and frankly too satisfying for him. He wanted me to cry. He wanted me to beg. He wanted to play the victim, the misunderstood genius who tried to save his family. I wasn't going to give him that. Instead, I played the part. I acted defeated. I acted broken. I let him think he'd won. I made him pancakes on Sunday. I asked him about his day. I watched him relax, watched him get comfortable, watched him get careless. And while he was getting careless, I was getting everything. I hired a lawyer, a shark. A woman named Patricia who specialized in financial fraud in divorce cases. I gave her every email, every text, every bank record. I filed a police report for wire fraud. I contacted the SEC. I called our 401k administrator and explained that the withdrawal had been made without my consent, which, legally, it had been, since I was the beneficiary and co-owner of that account. Patricia told me something that changed everything. In our state, marital assets withdrawn without consent for non-marital purposes, especially when fraud is involved, don't get split in divorce, they get traced. And if Mark had hidden assets, transferred them, or used them for an affair, I could be entitled to the entire remaining amount, plus damages. He wouldn't just lose half, he could lose everything. I also started recording our conversations. One night, over wine, I got him talking. I played dumb. Mark, do you think Derek will ever find the money to pay us back? Do you think he had good intentions? Mark, drunk and arrogant, laughed. Derek's an idiot, but he's my idiot. We had a plan, Sarah. A real plan. It just fell through. These things happen in business. I had him admitting to a plan on tape. I had him admitting he knew Derek. I had him admitting it wasn't just an innocent investment gone wrong. Then came the twist I never saw coming. I was at Patricia's office reviewing documents when she slid a folder across the desk. Sarah, you need to see this. Inside were bank records showing that Mark hadn't actually lost all the money. $40,000 had been wired to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands 3 days before he told me about the investment. He'd been planning this for months. The failed business wasn't just a scam. It was his escape plan. He was going to fake the loss, divorce me, and live off that hidden money with Jennifer. I stared at those papers for 10 minutes without blinking. He didn't just betray me. He architected my destruction. He wasn't a victim of Derek's scam. He was a partner in it. The morning I served him divorce papers, I made coffee first. French press, the way he likes it. I set the papers next to his mug. He picked them up, confused at first, then laughed. Sarah, come on. You're being dramatic. I sat down across from him. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just started talking. I know about Jennifer. I know about 10%. I know about the 40,000 in the Caymans. I know you transferred the money in chunks to hide it from me. I know the company never existed. I have the emails. I have the texts. I have the recordings. I have everything. His face went white. White. Like all the blood drained out of it. You went through my phone? I saved our family, I said quietly. You were the one destroying it. He started stammering. Sarah, baby, listen. I can explain. Jennifer didn't mean anything. The money, we'll get it back. I'll work double shifts. You'll do whatever my lawyer tells you to do, I interrupted. Because here's what's happening. I'm taking the house. I'm taking full custody. I'm taking every penny you ever try to earn until that $200,000 is paid back. And that offshore account? The feds already know. And Derek? The police are already looking for him. And you, Mark? You're next. He reached for my hand. I pulled it away. Don't touch me. Don't ever touch me again. I stood up, picked up my keys, and walked out the door. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. For the first time in months, I could breathe. It's been 3 months since I walked out that door. 3 months of lawyers, of depositions, of Mark begging me to work things out through his own attorney. 3 months of my kids asking why Daddy doesn't live here anymore, and me having to find the words to explain that sometimes grown-ups make choices that can't be undone. Here's what I learned. I learned that trust is not a blank check. I learned that being supportive doesn't mean being silent when every instinct in your body is screaming that something is wrong. I learned that love is not an excuse for blindness. And I learned that the strongest thing a woman can do is not forgive, it's protect herself. Mark didn't just lose me. He lost everything. The judge froze his assets. The SEC investigation found that he and Derek had solicited funds from 3 other families, not just ours. Mark is facing federal charges. Derek is in hiding. And Jennifer? She dumped him the second the money dried up. Turns out she wasn't in love with him. She was in love with the fantasy he sold her. Just like he sold me a fantasy for 15 years. Am I in the wrong? After everything I found, after every lie, every secret, every stolen dollar? No, I am not in the wrong. But I was wrong about one thing. I was wrong to think that keeping the peace meant keeping my mouth shut. I was wrong to believe that my job was to make him comfortable while he made me small. To every person watching this who feels stuck, who feels silenced, who feels like they're overreacting for wanting honesty and respect in their own home, you are not overreacting. You are reacting exactly as you should. Your instincts are not drama. They are data. Trust them. Protect yourself. Speak up before the silence costs you everything. So if this story made you angry, good. It should. If it made you think about your own relationships, even better. Drop a comment below. Tell me, what would you have done? Am I in the wrong for any of this? Subscribe if you want to follow my journey. I'm rebuilding. I'm healing. I need your support now more than ever, my friends. And I'm never, ever ignoring that gut feeling again. Not for anyone. Not ever. Not again.